Hello, my name is Carol, and I got a great idea from a friend of mine who just did, well, actually, she didn't just do it, but I just finally saw a video that she did a while back about her pregnancy, and she just briefly mentioned the delivery. And I was surprised because I remember my delivery of my son, Ryan Joseph Crowell, who was born August 6, 1983. I remember that so vividly that I thought I'd like to share it on YouTube because I would just love for him to know all the love and what went down because it's kind of funny, interesting, and maybe my grandson would like to see it sometime. So I remember that I was probably, if not already 2 weeks overdue, at least a week and a half. I remember that the doctor thought I was going to deliver at the end of July. So I was hoping for July 29th because Ryan's dad was born March 29th and I was born December 29th. So I thought it would be cool if our son was also born on the 29th. But as it would be, the end of July came and went, and the night before I gave birth, we went out to dinner with Alan Schoberlein. He's a tall, blonde friend of Ryan's dad, and we went out to dinner, and he was joking with us, and, well, maybe he wasn't joking, but he informed us at dinner that I was going to give birth the next day. So when we got home, kind of thought about it, and I thought, wow. And I thought what day it was. That night was 8 for August, 5 for the day, and it was 1983. A little background on that number 853, it was a special number between me and somebody in my past. So anyway, I kind of freaked out and I thought, oh my God, today is that day. And Alan Schoberlein thinks I'm going to have a baby tomorrow. And I've never had a baby before. You just, all of a sudden, you're 9 months pregnant and you're getting a little bit of a panic mode. I know you're not supposed to drink or do drugs or anything when you're pregnant, and I did not. I was so good. I even ate yogurt because I hate milk, and I wanted to make sure that my son had the right calcium and protein and all that. So I was trying to make sure I ate really good. But I just thought, if I'm going into labor tomorrow, I need to be prepared. So I literally took a sip of Jack Daniels. And believe me, I am not a liquor person. I would not even drink whiskey ever for any reason. I hate it. It doesn't even taste good. But I was so nervous, I just needed just like a swig. And then I decided to go to bed. I really was. I don't usually get anxious, I don't think. People might think I'm hyper because I talk real fast and I do things real fast and I think really fast. But I don't really get panic attacks. I don't get anxious. I might get angry. I might get very happy, but I don't get anxious, I don't think. Anyway, so thinking about that night, I really was fearful. I really was. So I went to bed, slept really good, didn't think any more about it. Through the night, I think it started about 2:30 in the morning because we had a digital clock right at the head of the bed. I was sleeping in a waterbed, and Ryan's dad was sleeping in the kitchen or the dining room, I think on a mat. At this point, at 9 months, it was really hard for me to get around on the waterbed, and I think it was just more comfortable to have me sleep by myself. Probably I was tossing and turning a lot probably in the night and stuff. So he was sleeping on his own. I was sleeping, watching. Every once in a while I would open my eyes and I'd notice the clock because I was getting this funny feeling, and I was like, and I'm not very comfortable, and going back to sleep, and then looking at the clock. Then all of a sudden I'm noticing every time I'm getting this really uncomfortable, icky feeling, I'm thinking, oh, it feels like my period's about to start. And I'm just looking at the clock and noticing every 15 minutes. All of a sudden it dawned on me, my period can't start. I'm pregnant. And then I realized every time I looked at the clock, it was a 15-minute difference. That's pretty regular. So I got up and I woke up Joe and I told him, and I called my doctor, Dr. Judson. I remember that name, Judson Jones. Judson because it's a weird first name. His name was Dr. Judson Jones. He was fairly young. I called him up and I told him, I think I'm going into labor. And of course, when I said that, he was like, well, if you think you're going into labor, you're probably not going into labor. And then I'm like, really? Because I'm just wondering how hard it's going to be. And then he goes, why did you just talk like that? And I'm like, because there's like pains in between my talking and I have to get my breath. And he's like, you're in labor, get to the hospital. So I was like, oh, okay. So I got off the phone with him, and then I was thinking, since at first when I was talking to him, he didn't seem too convinced that I was in labor yet. But then, so maybe I am in labor, so I'll go to the hospital. But oh my gosh, if I have a baby and I don't know how painful it's going to be. I don't know how long I'm going to be in the hospital bed after I give a baby. And people might come to the hospital to visit. I need to make sure I take a shower and do my hair, because I don't know how long it's going to be for me to not be able to take a shower and wash my hair, heaven forbid. So I went to go take a shower, and I would have to like stop in whatever position I was in to wait for the pain to subside. And I remember that there was even a point where, because I would like move around and try to find a comfortable spot while it was going on. I even remember at one point I was on my knees and I'm trying to find a good spot, because I noticed if I moved around, but I wasn't finding a good spot anymore for it to go away. So I'm like, okay, Joe, I think it's time. We gotta go now. So I'm getting dressed, and I'm thinking we're about to get into the car and go. I'll never forget this. I thought it was hilariously funny, because I was taking my time and not rushing. I guess Joe decided it was time for him to take a shower. It's just like, so I remember waiting for him in this little living room, like parlor, sitting room, where we lived upstairs from Joe's parents, in his grandmother's part of the house. And I was like on my hands and knees trying to find a comfortable position, because it was getting really bad by then. And it was, I just couldn't believe he was in the shower. Anyway, so finally he got out of the shower, and then we decided to go to Copley Memorial Hospital, which was basically just a couple blocks down the road. So but we got in the car. It probably was about 5:30 in the morning. It was still kind of dark on August 6th. We get to the hospital, and we go to the admittance desk in the emergency, and they get a wheelchair for me right away. And then Joe has to go to the reception area of the hospital to make sure that we're signed in. For some reason, we didn't do that in advance when I think you're supposed to, but we didn't. I think we were thinking I was going to actually go to another hospital, which was, can't remember the name of it, but it was a much newer hospital and had a better prenatal and everything else. But believe me, when you're in labor and there's a hospital just a block and a half away, you're going to go to the fastest one, closest one that you can find. So that's what we did. He registered me while I'm being rolled down the hallway in a wheelchair, and I'll never forget the thoughts in my head because it was very quiet in the hospital. Kind of felt even dark in there. Maybe they didn't have all of the bright lights on yet. And I'm being wheeled down, and it felt like boom, 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 as we're going to the elevator that's at the end of the hall. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I can't change my mind. I can't say, oh my gosh, no, I really don't want to do this right now. It's like there's no choice in the matter. It's just like boom, 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 boom. And we get to the elevator, and I just felt like, oh my gosh, this is it. And you have fear of the unknown. You have no idea how bad it's going to be. But for some bizarre, strange reason, freaking out like that, all of a sudden when we got to the room and I got in the bed, the nurse strapped me in to monitor the heartbeat and the whatever the contractions. There was nothing happening. I felt nothing at all. It was like, oh my God, all I could think of was, wow, that was pretty intense. And the nurses are trying to say, well, I think you probably just had false labor pains. And I'm like, oh my God, how bad can it get? I'm thinking if that was false, holy cow. I was just like, I was in disbelief, and I think I might have like even told them, it's like, no, that can't be. So they left the monitor on for a while, and they were going to watch it. And as I was laying there and relaxing, maybe Ryan started relaxing then too and decided to come out after all, since it wasn't as scary as I was making it feel while I was in that wheelchair. So all of a sudden, oh, there's the pains again, and I'm thinking, okay, nurse, is this real or not? And then she came and she's like, oh yeah, you're really in labor. Okay, we're going to have to get somebody to shave you. So they have to have a nurse shave down there. Because in those days, I don't think it was popular, at least not for me, to actually shave yourself or to be hairless down there. So they had to shave the area, and I made sure, I told her I don't want it all shaved. I just want, just the area you need shaved, because I didn't like the idea of having bristles down there. So she shaves me, and then they have to do an enema. That, when you're going in labor, having somebody stick something up your butt and have warm water go in is like the epitome of the worst stomach cramps you ever want to experience in your life. And when that happens, of course, when you have cramps like that, it makes you feel like you have to go to the bathroom. So when she did that, I'm like, oh my God. And of course, you do have to go to the bathroom when they give you an enema. So I was like, while I'm in labor pains, I have to get up from the bed, because I'm not going to just mess up my bed. I had to get up, and they led me to the bathroom, and it's a very small. This was weird. It wasn't a normal bathroom like when you are in a regular hospital room. It's pretty open so that you could have a wheelchair in there and everything. In these days, 1983, I guess all bathrooms weren't equipped like that. And it was a very old hospital. So I get into this little itty bitty bathroom that's like a closet size. And I know the toilet, I just barely sat into there. And while I'm on the toilet and having the worst cramps ever, I'm in so much pain that I'm trying to move around and wiggle around to get that pain to go away. And I remember at one point, that's how small this bathroom was. I had the legs, I was walking up with my legs onto the wall, trying to get in a good position. It was so painful. Let me just tell you, it's so painful. But I wanted to experience everything that was going on. So I had refused. My doctor knew from the onset, from the beginning, when I would make his doctor appointments. And we would talk about how I wanted to deliver. I did not want to do drugs at all. I'm probably the epitome of a control freak, and I do not like drugs. I do not like numbing for a dentist. I don't do that. I don't like Novocaine. Don't do that. I don't like meds as much as possible. So we get out of the bathroom, and then we go back to the bed. And I'm laying there, and they're still monitoring it. And then the nurse is checking to make sure that I'm the right centimeters. And I don't remember how many centimeters you're supposed to be or how many centimeters I was. But this is getting pretty intense. And I don't want an epidural. And I remember the nurse is checking, and they're checking, and they keep saying, no, she's only such and such centimeters, not ready yet. And I'm just like, oh my God, it's so intense now. Joe's trying to be really nice, and he's coming, to the front of me and trying to hold my hand. And all of a sudden, oh my God, what is that smell? Joe, get that gum out of your mouth. I will never forget the smell of Wrigley's double mint gum. When you're in labor, it's not the smell you want to smell, let me tell you. I was going to vomit. All of a sudden I screamed, I'm going to throw up. So the nurses rushed in with something for me to throw up in. Joe left immediately, got rid of the gum. And as soon as that smell was away, I was fine and relaxed. And then we went back into waiting, and the centimeters seemed to take forever. I remember looking at the clock. So probably got in there, when it started really happening, probably was a little after 6. So I was looking at the clock that was in front of me to the left slightly, and I'm watching the time go by as I'm going through those contractions and watching the clock and watching the clock, and of course not knowing at all how long this is going to take. And it finally gets to, I believe it was close to 9 in the morning, and the pain was getting so bad, and the nurses keep checking. And I remember at one point, the pain was so bad, I literally just felt like just going with it. I just remember thinking, and I remember my eyes feeling like they rolled to the back of my head, and it must have freaked out the nurses, because the nurse came in and she was yelling at me, telling me, look straight ahead, open your eyes, don't close your eyes. And she pretty much freaked out. And then I said, I don't know if, no, I didn't say anything, but they keep checking, they keep saying, and the doctor would peek in every once in a while and say, so is she ready? And they'd say, no, she's only such and such centimeters. And they're telling me, don't push. And I'm thinking, I'm not pushing. And the doctor heard that, and as soon as he heard that, he came in and he goes, it's time. And so they had to take me to the delivery room. In those days, if you had insurance, you could probably get it. But if you didn't, and you were just doing the bare minimum, you always had like a room that you did labor, and then you go delivery, and then you had recovery, and then you would go to your regular room. Seems silly. It seems like you should just stay in one room, but that's the way they did it. So they rushed me off finally to the delivery room. Everything happened extremely quick once we get to the delivery room. We're in the delivery room, and I'm feeling those labor pains. Whoa, are they strong now? And it literally felt like Ryan fell down a ladder inside of me. I wasn't pushing. It was like, it's falling. And I think the doctor knew that when I was talking, the way that it echoed through, you can tell that it was just coming down. So we get into the labor room, and again with my body. I don't know if my body just reacts that way, or Ryan reacted that way when he thought, uh-oh, this is it. Then he decided, because he's a stubborn kid, to this day. He's going to be 35 in August 6th, and he's a very, very stubborn person. So maybe he decided, oh, I'm not going anywhere. So I'm on the labor table, and they're like telling me to push. And I'm thinking, I don't feel like pushing now. I felt like pushing before. So I'm just like, I don't know what I want to push for. And then all of a sudden the doctor said, all right, you need to take 2 really good breaths, and you can only push 2 times. And if you can't get him out, we're going in with forceps. And I'm thinking, oh no, you're not touching my baby's head. So I took all the air I could, and I went, And I did it again, and he still wasn't all the way up, and I was like, not letting that doctor in with those forceps. So I was like, and finally he came out. But it was the most interesting, most awesome experience of my life. I never wanted to have a baby. If it wouldn't have happened the way that it happened, I was Catholic, by the way, so we don't use birth control when you're Catholic, I would have never had a baby. But I gotta tell you, it's one of the most awesome experiences in your life. It gives you reason for living. It is so precious when you're responsible for another human being and you want to do everything in your life to make sure to provide for that baby and to make sure that his life or her life is the best possible. Nothing better. Sorry. Nothing's better than that. Anyway, you have your baby and they put him in your arms and you see his cute little face and you bond magically, instantly, looking at your baby's eyes. It's just the most awesome feeling in the world. And as you can tell, I remember every moment of that day. It was remarkable. It was so special. And then they go to try to take your baby away because they have to clean him up and prepare him for you, but you don't want to let him go. And you've heard stories of children being mixed up in the hospital. As a matter of fact, I used to believe that possibly I was mixed up in the hospital because I could not believe that I actually belonged to the family I was in. So I made sure when I looked at my baby before they took him away, I found a mark on him that I would immediately identify when I saw him next time. So there was a little mark on one of his fingers. It was like a little dot birthmark. I'm kind of curious if he still has that, and I don't remember which finger or if it was a thumb, but it was one little mark. But even besides that, immediately when Ryan was born, his fingers were miniature his daddy's. He has the fingers of his dad's. And if he doesn't know that, I never realized that, to this day, if he ever hears or sees this video, he should look at his dad's fingers and compare them to his, because the top part mostly is very distinctively the same. It's kind of funny. So I knew what to look for, and I did get the right baby back, and I'm completely convinced of that. I have no doubt. But anyway, that's the most awesome day ever. And of course, they take him to wash him up and get him prepared. They take me into my room, and I'm in there, and because I didn't do drugs, and my adrenaline is sky high with excitement, I'm in there, and they're telling me I have to wait for him to be cleaned up, and I'm in there in my bed, and I'm just too excited, and nobody's there. Joe went to go buy some cigars to give away to people. I don't know, but there's nobody there for me. And I want to see my son, so I get up and I'm like walking the halls, trying to find the nursery, looking for my son. I see the nursery. I'm trying to find the nursery. A nurse comes up to me right away and says, "We got to get back to your room because you're bleeding everywhere." You know, I totally didn't even think of anything, but I'm just like, I hadn't had time to heal, of course, because I just had delivery, so I'm just bleeding, dripping blood everywhere. But the adrenaline high is remarkable. The experience is so exciting. I would never recommend anybody to ever have an epidural. And I know that some people have to have cesareans because something might happen, but if you don't have to, seriously, the pain may be bad and it may be excruciating at points, but when you know what's happening and you could feel every single stage, and you know exactly what's going to happen and that this is going to be the most exciting time of your life, you just want to feel and appreciate every single freaking moment, because it's something you will literally never forget for the rest of your life. Because I had him when I was 21. I'm now 56 years old, 35 years almost later, and I still remember every moment, every emotion, every feeling, every smell, everything. So hopefully it doesn't discourage you to have a child. I hope that you try to do delivery without any drugs whatsoever. Of course, if you need to, do it. But just don't be afraid and don't be fearful, because although it does feel fearful, because fear of the unknown is always intimidating, but just take it from me. I did no drugs, and it was probably the most wonderful experience of my entire life, and I treasure it forever. Peace out.